Alameda teachers, this is Judith Klinger, your AEA president, and the purpose of this little video is to give you some information about the budget in this district and how it all fits together so we can have good, intelligent conversations with each other about where money can come from to give us the raise that we so richly deserve. So if you look at the first slide, this is the AUSD budget. The whole thing is about $110 million. And as you can see, 80% of that is personnel. And personnel means salaries and benefits. And it covers all personnel, everybody from the classified unions to us into the administration. And 80% of the budget is about $88 million. Everything else is $22 million. And the raise that we have asked for is what we want to be brought up to Alameda County average. And if we take, if we all get an X% raise, it would take about $12 million to bring us up to county average. That's about 11% rather of the overall budget. And you can see the little green square overlaid on top of the pie that represents the budget. That money's got to come from somewhere. So let's start with personnel. So this is about $88 million in the budget. And here's what happens when the same dollar amount is spread over fewer people. So if we're going to cut from personnel in order to get a raise for the teachers, here's a way of thinking about it. So let's say that there are 100 people that receive this $88 million, and these employees are paid $880,000 per person per year. But if we lay off 40 people, now we've got 60 employees, and that same amount of money is spread over fewer people. And now each of those people earns $1.46 million per person per year, which would be a lovely salary. The thing is, in order to lay off enough people to free up the $11 million we need to be brought up to county average, it would be a massive layoff. And here you see all the sad faces. It would take well over 100 people from all areas of personnel, lunchroom ladies, the superintendent, many of us, in order to free up enough money to bring us up to county average. Well, what about all those administrators? Don't they have fat administrative salaries? Can't we just lay off a few of them? So here on the fourth slide, you can see it is absolutely true that administrators make more money than we do. But the fact is their salaries also lag behind our neighbors. If you look at the superintendent's salary here in AUSD, this is back from 2016, he is paid $228,800 per year, and an average of comparable districts' salaries, superintendents are paid $310,000 per year. Are there some positions that they can cut at district office? Certainly. And they're going to need to make some cuts. And they've told us they're going to make cuts, and we need to hold them to that. The thing is that even if they cut all the people at district office, it would only add up to about $5 million, still not enough to pay for our raise. And by the way, more on that $5 million later on in this presentation. So the fact is, the biggest chunk of the personnel budget is us. And over the past 5 years, AUSD has had a huge growth in the number of teachers. They have hired many, many more teachers over the past 5 years. And you can see that since 2012-13, we've added 61 full-time teachers, and this does not include our TSAs. And the next slide shows you that that growth in the number of teachers doesn't correspond with the growth in the number of students. We've only increased by about 160 students over the same period of time. So what's going on? Well, the fact is there's been some slackmaster scheduling such that too many of our classes are running well below capacity. And that's nice, but it's very expensive. And remember, this excludes our TSAs. They're not in this count. So another way of looking at our staffing is to look at ourselves in comparison to a neighboring district. Castro Valley is our demographically identical twin, so they're nice to make a comparison to. They have about the same number of students and the same revenues that we have. So last year, if you look at this graph, you can see we had about 86 more FTE than Castro Valley, with about the same number of students, but so very many more teachers. We spend about the same portion of the budget and the same dollar amount on salaries, but it is spread over fewer people, which, as we know from that beginning slide, means more money per teacher. And the reason is, it's pretty much because we're running classes well below our class size limits. The average number of students in each classroom that we have is 26.17, and the average in Castro Valley is 29.37. Now, remember that we're doing a like comparison. Both of these are all classes at all level, and they do include some of our smaller classes like SDC classes and ELD classes, but the same would be true for Castro Valley. So we know we've got fewer kids in all our classes everywhere, and there is one area that we can identify where we run smaller class sizes, and we do it on purpose because it's something we value. We run small class sizes at K3 compared to our neighbors. So on slide 9, you've got a comparison of class size limits, comparing us to various other districts here in Alameda County. And I want to be very, very clear that no one is suggesting that we raise class size at K3. And let me repeat that. No one is suggesting that we raise class size at K3 in order to pay for teacher raises. And in fact, it would be impossible to do so because the parcel tax is restricted money for that very purpose. But the slide is here to show a couple of things. For one thing, the days of 20-to-1 at K3 are history for everybody, not just us. And another thing is just so we know where some of the money is going. We employ more teachers at K3 than our neighboring districts. And it's a value that we have. We do it on purpose. Also, it is something kind of nice to be able to see, because so often here in Alameda we feel beleaguered because of how bad things are pay-wise. But here is one area where we have it better, and it's something to celebrate. This next slide, this nice pie chart, is another important piece of information for when we think about the district budget and our salaries. Not all money can be used for all salaries. There are different sources of funds, and some of these are restricted. The restricted funds can pay for both personnel and for all else, as long as it's within that restricted category. The biggest chunk of restricted money is our parcel tax, and that's $12 million. Some of that money does indeed go to salary at the K3 level, but a raise for those teachers can't come out of the rest of the parcel tax, as the rest of the parcel tax is designated for arts, sports, AP classes, and the like. Raises would have to come out of the general fund. The next biggest chunk of restricted funds is for special ed, and that's about $8 million. After that comes LCFF, which is the local control funding formula, the supplemental funds. The supplemental money has to be used to benefit ELs, students of poverty, and foster kids. And in AUSD, it's about $5 million. So this can be used for designated ELD teacher salaries or MTSS teacher salaries, but not for an across-the-board raise for gen ed teachers. And you can also see several other smaller chunks like Titles 1, 2, and 3 just are clumped together here under Other. All right, So that covers personnel. What's in all else? What's in that $22 million? Even with layoffs at all levels, we have to get some of the reallocation of funds from that 20% of the budget. We've published the district's checkbook register, and you can see everything they spend money on in there. And these are things that we all need, and some things that are a little bit questionable. We need our textbooks. We need our FOSS kids. Do we need to pay dogs to chase goose off our fields? I'm not sure about that. So please look through the checkbook registers and see what you can find. Even small amounts of money that can be redesignated for teacher salaries adds up. So district office is an area that we look at frequently as a place to cut fat in order to get raises for us. And as previously stated, yes, they need to cut some fat. There are places there to trim. But this shows you that the cost of running the district office, the rent, the people who work there, the personnel, the electricity, the furniture, the pencils, and the toilet paper, even if they wiped district office off the face of the earth, it wouldn't be enough for our raise. And we do need some people at district office to cut our paychecks for us. So what's left? Out of the whole budget, we need to do some cutting from our site budgets. We've trimmed personnel, we've cut back on non-essential all else, hopefully tightened up poorly administered programs. So we need to look at what our site can contribute to the good of the collective. Teaching more than most professions is siloed work. We don't know what other teachers do. Secondary doesn't know what elementary is like. Elementary doesn't know what secondary is like. Everybody's terrified of middle school. The different subject areas don't understand what the work is like in other subject areas. And here in Alameda, East End and West End don't know what the other's experience is. It's then pretty natural to look at each of our own programs as something sacred. But the fact is, if we want to be brought up to county average, we all have to sacrifice a little. Or maybe we've missed something. Maybe there's a way to do it without sacrificing anything. The budget documents are public. There's a small handful of us who've been scrutinizing them, figuring out what the revenues are, what the expenditures are, what's restricted, what's not. And we're a pretty smart team, but we're not infallible. So if you have ideas on how to look at this budget info, please join in. The information is complicated, and you're going to have to resist simplistic conclusions, but the more good brains, the merrier. What's a little uncool is not studying any of the budget information and then second-guessing the work of the folks who have done that. So please join us rather than challenge us. And if we are all working together towards the same goal, we can get out of our silos. We can look beyond our own particular druthers to us as teachers, as a collective group of professionals. And the fact is we need to. We have young teachers that can't afford to work here. Some of us old folks are high enough on the pay scale to make a living. Some of us supplement the primary breadwinners in our families. But we need to think beyond our own circumstances to the newer teachers. They're trying to pay off student loans, pay rent, and buy groceries on less than $4,000 a month gross. That's gross, not net. We need to think about what happens to the quality of education in this town when the quality of educators falls because we can't hire or we can't keep good teachers. We've become a revolving door district, they say. We've become a training ground. And I think we all know teachers who have come to work here for a few years, reaped the benefit of training, and then taken off. Last year, there was a 20% increase in certificated resignations. So that's between 2016 and 17. 20% increase. And 64% of the teachers who left did so to take employment elsewhere. To be sure, we don't know that it was because of high pay elsewhere. Maybe people moved because they liked the commute, because they joined the Army, but 64% leaving to take employment elsewhere is pretty startling. Here's another thing for us to think about. Let's go back to the big picture of getting our salaries up to average. We're going to look at a completely different mechanism to do so. If the question is, how far are we from average? The answer is, it depends on how long you've been a teacher. So this slide shows you how far from average we are from Alameda County. And if you look at step 1, column 1, here in Alameda, a teacher is 17.76% below average. So even though it looks like it's up, and up is usually a good thing, that simply means that they're that far below average. When you move to the upper range of our salary schedule, the highest cell, max on the AUSD salary schedule is only 9.90% below average. And that is still far from being average, but it's quite a bit closer than our brand new teachers. So the point is that the longer you've been teaching, the closer you are to county average. The problem with our traditional system of giving percentage raises is that it exacerbates the inequality already built into our salary schedule, and the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Except none of us is rich, and hopefully none of us looks as mean as that guy there. So, if we're looking at the traditional percentage raise increase, let's say beginning teacher, they earn about $48,000 here, gets a 10% raise, they now earn $4,800 more. But a teacher at the max cell who earns $91,000 is going to pocket $9,100 more. And it continues in that fashion. And as it does so, our salary schedule gets more and more out of balance, just like this teeter-totter. The newer teachers fall further and further behind, and more importantly for this discussion, they fall further and further from county average. So what's a way around that? Give everybody a fixed sum bump. What does that mean? Everybody would receive the exact same dollar amount raise instead of a percentage raise. If we applied, just for an example, $9,000 to each cell, we'd all be brought near to county average. And if you look at this slide, it shows that we're all roughly underpaid by $9,000. If we each get a raise of $9,000, we'd all be closer to average. The rich would not be getting richer. It is true that the members at the start of the salary schedule would get a larger percentage increase than us oldsters. But then again, two things. One, we wouldn't be getting a larger dollar amount in our pockets. And then again, it's our new members who are leaving the district to get higher pay elsewhere. Also, and very importantly, the fixed sum bump would cost the district less than the $12 million that we talked about at the beginning of the video. And that would prevent the need to cut some of our beloved site budgets. So meditate upon this as a possibility. It's up to you, our members, to give your bargaining team direction about what raise you want us to bargain. Please watch the video again and again, because the more we see something, the more we can wrap our brains around it. Please come to the various membership meetings we've set up, ask questions, and most importantly, talk to each other. Talk to people who teach at different levels from you, different subject areas from you, and really try and understand what their silo is like. And after that discussion, questioning, and thinking, then come to the bargaining team and tell us what it is that you would like us to bargain. It is all up to you. Thank you.